shoe.
It's the Weekend Show with Kenny Shelton.
Well, you can do anything but take you over my blue suede shoe.
On the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
You knock me down, slip in my face.
Good morning. It's 11:07 here on the Weekend Show with me, Kenny Shelton. This portion of the program being brought to you by Lynn Berry DJ Services. Lynn Berry has been doing weddings for, he's enough to do over 550 weddings. Last time he and I talked about a specific number. He's your full-service wedding DJ. He does the reception as well as the wedding itself. If you need that, you can reach out to him on his website, djsite.com, DEEJAYSITE.com. And as we speak this morning, the Appomattox Railroad Festival is happening in the streets of Appomattox. The parade kicked off at 9:30. Next big event to go on is my buddy Melvin Pribble and the group Funky Bone taking the Cortland Field stage, and then at the same time over at the Abbott Park stage, Harbor is playing some great music. So it's always a fun event. I love the Appomattox Railroad Festival. Get a chance, stop in there today. They close up at 5 o'clock today. Then the street dance begins with the Ruckus performing at 8 o'clock, fireworks tonight at 9 o'clock. I guess everything's still on schedule with the weather. And then it kicks off tomorrow again. The roads in the area close at 11, and the events begin at noon again tomorrow, basically in Appomattox, right there, Cortland Field area. Enjoy yourself. I've been to that event many times, so you can have a very good time in Appomattox for that Railroad Festival. Right now, it is 11:08, and our man Dan McDermott is on the line. Good morning, Dan. Ever been to the Appomattox Railroad Festival?
I have not, but I do know a line. What's that line about weddings? A country preacher got me into this wedding, and it took a city lawyer to get me out. So I was listening to your last segment about the FCC, and I don't think they can ban the name of the Washington professional football team. And this has been addressed before. They've got the famous list of 7 words that George Carlin all but built a comedic empire on.
Yes.
But those all refer to sex acts or excretion, that stuff.
Yeah, yes.
They have specifically addressed things that are offensive. In one case, whether Polish jokes should be banned. In 1978, they responded to an NAACP complaint from Julian Bond about the N-word, and they said that they couldn't add that because of First Amendment considerations. So basically, and they affirmed this in 2006, they said that we can't, if something is offensive, like a racial joke or a religious joke or some or term or epithet, that can't be banned, and that's as late as 2006. So I don't think, although I agree with you guys that the time has come, just move on, change the dumb name, and let's go, because it's just a trickle constantly, in my opinion.
Well, with the other things that you mentioned, the George Carlin list of 7 things you can't say, which of course he did say on an album. Help me with that album that George Carlin did. Did they bleep out the words on the album too, or since we purchased the album, could we actually hear the words? I can't remember.
I've heard it. I mean, I've never heard it beep.
Okay, fine.
I can't imagine. How could you? That'd be like trying to listen to a modern rap song, and it'd be nothing but beeps.
I guess if a radio station tried to play it, I guess they'd have to bleep it out. Obviously, it's be over the airways. But that's the thing. It's like if they really truly banned the name Redskins as it associates with the Washington Redskins football team, that'd be the first time they've ever banned or done something with basically a company. I mean, an organization that's a lot more than just a word anybody can say on the radio or TV or anything like that. Anyway, let's get into something else for you, Dan. A while back, there was a story about Olive Garden and how a hedge fund was very critical of them. I understand there's some news there. What's the update, the deal there at the Olive Garden there, Dan?
Well, it's a wild story. So this hedge fund is, they are what's called an activist investor. Their name is Starboard Value. And they initially got upset with Darden. Darden is the company that owns Olive Garden. They own LongHorn Steakhouse and several other chains, Bahama Breeze. And they have about 2,100 restaurants nationwide. And they used to own Red Lobster. Now, they sold Red Lobster. They bought it from General Mills, I think in the 90s, and they sold it. And you'd always see like a Red Lobster next to an Olive Garden when they'd build them. They'd build both. And I guess it's sort of complementary. And I remember as a kid, we'd go to Olive Garden, and it was great, the breadsticks and the unlimited soup and the salad and stuff. But when they sold Red Lobster, they upset a lot of their investors. And I guess they didn't feel that they were heard, the investors and the shareholders. So this group put out just an epic takedown. It was a PDF, a 294-page thing. Can you imagine, Kenny, if I released a 294-page document with charts, graphs, and photos illustrating how terrible you are at your job? I mean, that would just, you'd want to crawl in a hole, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what they did. It was just epic. It was, they complained about alcohol, that they, only 8% of sales at Olive Garden are alcohol, but other chains are between 13 and 18%. That they, the breadsticks, they said what they do is, they're supposed to bring one breadstick per person, plus one extra. So if there's you and me and your wife eating lunch or dinner, they're supposed to bring 4 out. But they bring more than that. They average 3 per guest, and they end up throwing most of them away because they don't bring them often enough, so they're not hot and fresh. That was one of their complaints. Another complaint was that they don't put salt in the pasta water. And they said that the reason Darden does this is because they have a deal with the maker of the pots that they get an extended warranty if they don't salt the pasta water. And the contention from the activist investor group was that, 101 making pasta is you salt the water. And it just goes on and on. The TV commercials, they said they're not really embracing social media. Where is the Olive Garden app? They're just throwing 50 weeks per year of television where the other chains don't. They said that they refer to the Cadillac of take-home containers. They said that it was dishwasher safe and microwave safe and drove costs up $22 million a year. Why don't we just get a regular takeout thing? The menus are huge. And I've seen some stories after this came out. I saw some funny things on the Internet where people went to an Olive Garden to see, and they tried the things that they were mentioning in this report. And, the limp, over-fried, bland stuff, and they said that the pasta, despite not being salted and so flavorless and bland, that they would just ladle the sauce on top, whereas at other chains they'll mix it up so that the temperature is consistent. Because if you put pasta on a plate and you put a big spoonful of sauce on top, then you've got it under the warmer while you're getting the rest of the plates together. The pasta on the edge is going to be cooler and dry, and the pasta under the sauce is going to, it's just, they went on and on about this stuff. So the former board had some heavy hitters. Walmart CEO, former CEO Bill Gross, former U.S. Senator Connie Mack. So they're no joke. I mean, they're A-lister business celebrity type guys. And the new board, a lot of folks say, well, what does a hedge fund know about running a restaurant? They just want to sell off the pieces. Well, their new board candidates included the former CEO of Darden, former CEO of Burger King, the former president of IHOP. So they had game too. So this thing went out, and there were all these crazy stories. I'm sure that Brian and Mary had a great few segments on that stuff, but they actually won. They kicked out the entire board of 12 people and installed their slate of 12.
Man.
So the entire regime is gone over this, and they've had quarter after quarter, I think like 3 years they've lost money or had negative growth or slowing growth, and they've lost money the last few quarters. But do you remember, were you an Olive Garden family? Occasionally you'd go out there?
Olive Garden for us was always really a special occasion, pretty much. And it seemed like to me we'd only go to Olive Garden on vacation somewhere else out of town. Of course, we have one in town now. But, yeah, I've been many times. Look, I don't know from salt not being in the pasta when they boiled it or whatever. It all tastes good to me. It sounds like that 294 pages was really digging deep to find some negative stuff to say. It was a
epic takedown. And they showed pictures of what the thing looks like on the menu and what they actually were served. They said, we were served this in Orlando Olive Garden, and it was just like you wouldn't feed your dog this. It was just this over-fried, nasty thing on the plate. But, you can order something 50 times and find that one that's really awful looking and take a picture of that, right? And obviously they had an agenda here, but it worked. And the bottom line is, if you're losing money consistently, and the new logo is just awful. They had the most beautiful logo. They have beautiful restaurants. The exterior is gorgeous. The interior is gorgeous. And then they changed it to this crazy logo. It looks like one, I think, Ad Age or Ad Week. They all panned it. They said it looks like a kindergartner's first cursive lesson. Just really trashed it. And these are professional experts in how to do advertising and logos and stuff. Yeah, they were trashing it. Changing the logo is a big deal. McDonald's has had the same logo basically its whole life. When you change the logo, so. It sounds like in some kinds of cases when radio stations are purchased by people that don't know what they're doing, it sounds like I don't know. I get off on a tangent. $50,000 per store. They spent $44 million to change, or $42 million to change the logos, and that's the hedge fund said that it wasn't. That was not the underlying. That was not one of the underlying issues involving Olive Garden. To me, it's an iconic brand, an American brand, like you said, McDonald's, and I don't like to see these guys failing. You know, I'd like to see them get back up, and with a pretty, at least on paper, a pretty qualified board coming in. You know, we'll see what happens, but now I'm getting hungry, Kenny. I'm going to have to go to.
I am starving to death,
pasta.
and it's all your fault, man. I was maintaining okay. There's a piece of pizza left over from last night that was not refrigerated. I'm tempted, but I'm not going to do that. No. I guess we'll go to a nice restaurant later. But thanks for the update on.
Did you hear about the?
Go ahead.
Yeah, did you hear about the crazy spider house?
This crazy spider house? No.
There's a house. I forget what state it's in. It's on a golf course. They bought it like '07 or something, and $400 and some thousand for this house. And then they noticed there were some spiders, and then more spiders. The woman was in the shower. Imagine you're in the shower and the spider like lowers itself right next to your face and then gets washed down the drain. And more were coming. And so they had an expert. They actually sued the company. The expert, who is one of the foremost spider experts, apparently that's a thing, they're spider experts, he said that they were brown recluse spiders,
Ooh, they'll kill
which
you.
of course are one of I think there's only 2 poisonous spiders in Virginia, the brown recluse and the black widow.
Yeah.
The guy estimated, he said there were between 4,500 and 6,000 spiders in the house.
Oh, my Lord.
And to make matters worse, this was measured in the winter when they're least active. So
you just freaked out. My producer Janelle is just going crazy.
yeah. So getting a disturbing visual, you know, so much for your hunger pains.
Yeah, really.
And then
Thanks.
they've lost the house. They sued, but they couldn't collect because the previous owners went bankrupt. So that now the house is completely tarped over, and they're basically like all but nuking it, you know, with poison. They said everything's going to be dead. I can't imagine 6,000 poisonous spiders in your beautiful $500,000 house.
They say,
my goodness.
What do they say? You're never more than 6 feet away or something from a spider. I don't know that there's a statistic on that. Anyway, well, you've got us hungry and then you grossed us out. Dan McDermott, what a stellar morning, sir. Thank you so much for your contribution to the weekend show.
Any segment that begins with George Carlin will not end well. That's the lesson learned today.
Rock on, man. Have a great weekend. We'll see you.
My pleasure.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Hang on. More of The Weekend Show with Kenny Shelton is coming up next on the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
It doesn't matter. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.